My estranged father said he was dying, and I am ignoring him on purpose. I'm 27. I've been married for 6 years. And for 5 of those years, I have lived in a beautiful, silent vacuum where my biological father didn't exist. I worked so hard for that silence. I paid thousands of dollars in therapy to build a wall high enough that his voice couldn't climb over it. But 2 weeks ago, I made the mistake of looking over that wall, and now the entire structure is crumbling. To understand why I'm even considering letting a man die alone, you have to understand what it was like growing up as a disappointment simply for having a certain face. My parents divorced when I was 14. It was messy, but for my father, it was a total ego death. He didn't just lose a wife, he lost his sense of control. And because I am the spitting image of my mother, I have her jawline, her copper-toned hair, and the exact same way of narrowing my eyes when I'm thinking. I became the lightning rod for every ounce of his unresolved bitterness. From the age of 15 until I moved out, my life was a cycle of verbal evisceration. It wasn't just anger issues. It was a calculated, daily reminder that I was a disgrace. He would sit at the kitchen table, nursing a drink, and just watch me. If I walked into the room to get a glass of water, he'd scoff. "Look at you," he'd say. "Walking just like her. Thinking you're better than everyone. You're a disappointment, you know that? You have her vanity but none of the charm." I spent my high school years trying to be invisible. I'd stay at the library until it closed. I'd join clubs I didn't care about just to avoid being home before he went to sleep. But he'd wait up. He'd wait just to tell me that my grades weren't good enough, or that my choice of major for college was pathetic, or that I'd never find a man who could stand the sight of me for more than a week. When I got married at 21, I thought that was my exit ramp. My husband's family is normal. That's the only word for them. They have Sunday dinners where no one screams. They hug. They actually listen when someone speaks. Seeing how they lived made me realize how truly poisoned my upbringing was. A year into my marriage, after one final, screaming phone call where my father called me a traitor for spending Thanksgiving with my in-laws, I changed my number. I moved houses. I went completely dark. For 5 years, it worked. Until 2 weeks ago. I got an email. It was a long, rambling subject line. "I don't have much time left, please just read this." Against every instinct I possessed, I opened it. He told me he was 57 now, but he felt 90. He said he had suffered a series of health complications, spinal issues, chronic illness, that had left him crippled and wheelchair-bound. He said he was living in the same house I grew up in, but he couldn't even get to the second floor anymore. "I've had a lot of time to sit in this chair and look at the walls," he wrote. "I've realized I was a hard man. I was hurting, and I took it out on the person I should have protected. I miss you. I want to see my daughter before I'm gone." I cried. I hate that I cried. I felt this surge of daughterly duty that I thought I had killed off years ago. I talked to my husband, and he was cautious. He told me, "You don't owe him anything, but if you need to do this for your own closure, I'm behind you." I decided to reply, but I set a firm boundary, text only. No phone calls, I couldn't handle the sound of his voice yet, and definitely no visits. For the first 10 days, it was actually healing? Or so I thought. We talked about art. My father was always a talented sketcher, and it was the one thing we used to do together when I was very small, before the divorce. We'd send pictures of our drawings back and forth. He'd comment on my shading. He'd tell me about the books he was reading. He sounded like the father I had always dreamed of having, the one who was interested in my mind. He told me he had changed. He told me he was a better man because the illness had humbled him. I started thinking about the logistics. I started wondering if I should bring him to a specialist near me. I even looked up wheelchair-accessible vans. I was falling for it. The honeymoon phase ended 3 days ago. My younger sister, who has her own trauma with him but occasionally checks in, didn't answer his text for 4 hours because she was in a back-to-back meeting at work. He didn't lash out at her. He lashed out at me. He sent me a barrage of texts at 2 p.m. "Where is your sister? Why isn't she answering? I know you're talking to her. I know you're telling her not to help me. You're still that same manipulative bitch your mother was." I was stunned. I replied, "Dad, she's at work. I haven't even talked to her today. Please calm down." That was the trigger. He went into a full-blown meltdown. He started calling me a shitty daughter and a loser. He told me that I was whiny for ever mentioning the past, his word for years of abuse. Then, he sent the message that finally broke the spell. "Do you want to know the truth? I've been pretending. I've been sitting here bearing with your art talk and your boring life because I had no choice. I'm stuck in this chair, and if I didn't tolerate you, I'd die alone in the shithole. I've been playing the part of the better man, just so you'd come and take care of me. But you're too busy sucking up to your husband's perfect family to help your own father. You look down on me because I'm a loser, don't you? You're ashamed that your own father is a cripple. I felt like the air had been kicked out of my lungs. He admitted it. Every sweet message, every "I'm sorry," every "I miss you" was a tactical move. He wasn't a better man, he was just a desperate one who had run out of victims. He didn't want a relationship, he wanted a live-in mate he could belittle whenever he felt frustrated by his own physical limitations. I didn't reply. I didn't block him yet, because I was in shock. I just watched the bubbles appear and disappear as he kept typing. Go ahead, ignore me. Just like your mother did. You're a disgrace. You prioritize other people's family because you're too weak to handle the responsibility of your own. I hope you remember this when I'm in the ground. Yesterday, he texted again. This is the part that is making me lose sleep. He acted like nothing happened. Total reset mode. I'm having a really hard time breathing today, he messaged. I need you to come home. I need someone to help me with my meds and the house. I am dying, my name. I just want my kids around me. Please. I'm begging you. Just come home for a few weeks. I finally replied. I asked him, do you remember what you said 2 days ago? You called me a bitch. You said you were pretending to like me just so you wouldn't die alone. Why would I come help you after that? His response was the pinnacle of his narcissism. You are overreacting as usual. I'm a crippled man in pain. I don't have the emotional capacity to worry about some texts I sent when I was having a bad day. You need to chill out. It's not that deep. I'm your father, and I'm sick. Brush it off and get here. Stop being so sensitive. That was it. I realized that if I go there, nothing will have changed. I will be 27 years old, sitting at that same kitchen table, being called a disgrace while I hand-feed the man who hates my face. My Aunt Sarah sent me a message saying, I know he was difficult, but he's in a wheelchair, my name. He can't even get to the kitchen half the time. He's dying. If you let him die alone, that's a weight you will carry for the rest of your life. Family is family, no matter what. Don't be the monster he says you are. One of my cousins called me heartless and said that I'm playing God by deciding who deserves care and who doesn't. I'm torn. On one hand, the thought of stepping foot in that house makes me want to vomit. I feel like I owe it to the little girl version of me to keep her safe from him. On the other hand, he is dying. He is in a wheelchair. He is a pathetic, broken man who has no one else because he burned every bridge he ever had. Am I the asshole for wanting to let him face the consequences of those burned bridges? Am I the asshole for wanting him to die alone? He keeps saying I'm overreacting. He keeps saying I should chill out. But every time I think about chilling out and going to him, I feel like I'm signing a contract to be abused one last time. I feel like he's trying to trap me into being his final victim so he doesn't have to face the silence of his own making. My husband told me tonight, if you don't go, I will protect you from the family. But if you do go, I'm coming with you, and the second he raises his voice, we are leaving. But I don't even want to give him the chance to raise his voice. I want to delete the apps. I want to go back to the 5 years of silence. But the guilt, that deep, societal, he's your father, guilt, is clawing at me. So, am I the a-hole? Am I a monster for ignoring a dying, crippled man because he can't stop himself from being verbally abusive? Or am I finally just standing my ground? Update. I wish I could say things became clearer after that night, but they didn't. The guilt didn't fade. It changed shape instead. It followed me through normal routines, showed up while I was grocery shopping, while folding laundry, while brushing my teeth before bed. Every quiet moment turned into an argument inside my own head. One side reminded me exactly who my father had always been. The other kept whispering that dying people deserved compassion, that maybe this was my last chance to do the right thing. The messages from relatives didn't slow down. Some were openly hostile, others carefully worded but heavy with judgment. A few framed it as concern for my future conscience rather than his well-being, which somehow felt worse. They spoke as if regret was inevitable, as if refusing him now guaranteed lifelong punishment. None of them mentioned the years I spent being humiliated in that house. None of them asked what it had cost me to rebuild myself afterward. My husband handled most of it. He blocked numbers when people started calling late at night. He stopped reading comments aloud after realizing each one visibly rattled me. Still, things slipped through. Screenshots sent by cousins. Posts my father made online describing himself as abandoned. People I barely remembered from childhood reacting with sympathy toward him and outrage toward a version of me they invented from his stories. He painted himself as a lonely, dying man begging for forgiveness from an ungrateful daughter. The narrative spread faster than I expected. I stopped opening social media altogether because every notification felt like another accusation. Meanwhile, my father continued texting as though nothing had happened. Some messages were dramatic updates about his health. Others were casual, almost cheerful, asking what I was drawing lately or whether I had watched a movie he mentioned weeks earlier. It was unsettling how easily he erased his own cruelty. Reading those messages felt like being pulled back into the old pattern where reality constantly shifted depending on his mood. I didn't respond. Days passed, then a week. I focused on work and tried to anchor myself in ordinary things. My husband's family invited us for dinner that Sunday, and I almost didn't go because I felt hollow and distracted. Sitting at their table felt surreal. People laughed. Someone argued gently about a recipe. My mother-in-law squeezed my shoulder when she noticed I was quiet but didn't ask questions. That normal kindness nearly broke me more than anything else because it reminded me what relationships were supposed to feel like. Later that night, I received a message from my younger sister. We don't talk often, mostly because we coped with our upbringing differently, but she told me she had visited him recently. She didn't try to convince me to go. She just described the house. It sounded smaller than I remembered. Messier. He had refused outside help because he didn't trust strangers. Medication bottles covered the kitchen counter. The air smelled stale. She said he complained about me the entire time but also kept checking his phone, waiting for messages that never came. I sat with that image for a long time. It hurt in a complicated way. Not because I suddenly wanted to rush there, but because I recognized something deeply sad about a man trapped with the consequences of his own behavior and still unable to understand why he was alone. A few days later, another message arrived from him, different in tone. Shorter. Less aggressive. He said he had fallen trying to transfer from his wheelchair and had needed a neighbor to help him up. He wrote that humiliation was worse than pain and that he never imagined his life ending like this. I almost replied. My hands hovered over the keyboard for several minutes. I thought about asking if he was okay, about suggesting professional care, about keeping the conversation neutral and distant. Before I could decide, another text came through seconds later accusing me of ignoring him on purpose and reminding me that good daughters don't abandon their fathers. The moment snapped something back into place. The pattern was still there, unchanged beneath the vulnerability. I put the phone down again. The following week, my aunt called my husband instead of me. She told him my father's health had worsened and implied that if something happened, I would have to live with the consequences. My husband listened politely and then told her that protecting me was more important than managing other people's expectations. After he hung up, he didn't repeat everything she said, but I could see anger in his face that he rarely shows. Sleep became difficult after that. I started dreaming about the old house. Not dramatic nightmares, just ordinary scenes from when I was 16, standing in the kitchen, waiting for footsteps, bracing for criticism. I'd wake up tense, heart racing, as if my body remembered something my adult mind wanted to forget. 2 weeks after my last post, my sister called again. Her voice sounded flat in a way that told me something was wrong before she said anything. Our father had been hospitalized after a severe infection. She said doctors weren't optimistic. He was conscious but weak, and he kept asking whether I had called. I felt the room tilt slightly when she said it. For a moment, every argument I had built to protect myself felt fragile. Death suddenly made everything final. There would be no future apology, no chance for him to become different someday. Whatever our relationship was would remain unfinished forever. My husband asked gently if I wanted to go see him. He offered to drive, to stay beside me, to leave immediately if I felt uncomfortable. The offer was steady and calm, without pressure. I spent the entire night thinking about it. In the morning, I still didn't know what the right answer was. I imagined walking into that hospital room and seeing him diminished, frail, possibly remorseful. I also imagined hearing the same dismissive tone, the same insults disguised as honesty. Both possibilities felt equally real. I didn't go. Instead, I asked my sister to tell the nurses to ensure he had proper care and to keep me updated medically. It felt like the only boundary I could manage, concern without presence. He sent one final message later that day. It was brief. He wrote that he guessed I had made my choice and that he hoped I felt proud of myself. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of anything that had happened between us. Just blame, wrapped in resignation. I didn't respond to that either. 3 days later, my sister called again early in the morning. I knew before answering. The hospital had called her overnight. He passed away quietly after complications worsened. The moment felt strangely still. No dramatic grief, no sudden collapse. Just a heavy, quiet awareness that something irreversible had happened. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time afterward. My husband stayed nearby but didn't speak. I appreciated that more than anything. Words felt useless. News spread quickly through the family. Some relatives sent condolences that sounded genuine. Others sent messages layered with subtle accusations, reminding me that he had asked for me near the end. I didn't argue or defend myself. I didn't have the energy. The funeral invitation arrived a few days later. I chose not to attend. The thought of standing in a room filled with people who believed a version of events that erased my childhood felt unbearable. My sister understood, even if she didn't fully agree. In the week since, life has returned to normal on the surface. Work continues. Bills get paid. Dinner conversations happen like always. Yet there's an emptiness that wasn't there before. Not grief exactly, but the absence of possibility. The story is finished now, whether I was ready or not. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had gone. Maybe he would have softened at the end. Maybe we would have had a peaceful conversation. Or maybe I would have left that hospital feeling small and humiliated one final time. There's no way to know. What surprises me most is that the guilt didn't disappear after his death, but it also didn't consume me the way everyone predicted. It exists quietly alongside relief. I hate admitting that, but it's true. The fear of another angry message, another sudden emotional ambush, is gone. Still, closure never arrived. There was no reconciliation, no healing moment, no last-minute understanding between us. Just silence, permanent this time. I didn't forgive him. He never truly apologized. And now neither of us will ever get the chance to change how things ended.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.